This week's reading is about hypermedia, a term that I'm borrowing from Steven Shaviro from his book, Post-Cinematic Affect. Let me show you an example. This is an article published on the Marshall Project's webpage, and you can see that they've done a lot of this hypermediating. Even the very letters are links that you can click on that are videos that are playing in real time. And as you scroll down, you'll see that they do it throughout as well. There are smaller links in pictures hyperlinked into the actual text in a way where it's not just the word that you can click on, but it's actually a moving picture. And when you run your cursor over it, it expands to the side. This convergence theory is now moving into digital media and beginning to connect different sorts, different websites, different formats, different sources. As we move on towards the second half of this class, remember Plato and Oscar Wilde's debate and how it plays out in real time. Life imitates art, imitates life, imitates art. Our documentaries, art, imitate our cultural norms, and those that align with what is currently hip and in style, those that nail the recipe, beat their competitors and stick around. Then they inform our daily lives. They provide knowledge about the world around us that informs our decisions. They make us into life imitating art. And in turn, we post on social media. We have conversations with our people. We write articles and do podcast interviews. We use our life, which is a product of art, to produce art, which then shapes life. You're going to read about the 2012 presidential debates, and I want you to note that the format that worked best back then was when content aligned with what the audience was consuming anyway in their free time. In this case, in 2012, it was reality TV, Survivor, Big Brother, The Bachelor, Celebrity Apprentice. We were a country infatuated with so-called reality TV, but more importantly, we were infatuated with the portions where the actors behaved poorly. We love the fights. I'm not going to repeat what you'll read in the article, so please take time to get through it before you take the quiz this week. But I will add a few updates, which you're probably already thinking about if you finish the piece. The reality shows I mentioned may have been topping viewer charts in 2011, but in 2020, we've updated our tastes as a culture. The number one show up until April 2020, when it was canceled because we all suddenly realized it was part of the problem with policing in the United States, was Live PD. I'm playing a short clip from one of the final episodes in the background here. What the research shows, and this isn't just new research, but it's replicated constantly, what that research shows is that these types of programs, Cops, Live PD, World's Wildest Police Videos, Highway Patrol, these so-called reality TV shows paint police officers in the best possible light. They edit out mistakes, they highlight heroic moments, and they allow them to introduce themselves at the beginning of each segment. We know them as human beings. The suspects get the opposite treatment. They're strangers whom we never meet, and all we see is edited clips of their bad behavior. They wouldn't even be in the episode if they weren't doing something wrong. Plus, they're cherry-picked for spectacle. Hundreds of hours of tape are reviewed for each short clip. It takes a lot to pass muster in our current culture of spectacle. There's a lot to choose from. The other top television shows right now are so-called real-life trash comedy, like Shameless, or murder, drug, and violence-fueled dramas, like Ratchet and Hightown. They all focus on the so-called underworld of society. Poverty, murder, illegal drug use, mental illness, institution. Things that we don't have much access to ourselves for most of our lives. So we enjoy hearing about them through stories. So take all that, our cultural lust for narratives that show poor people as awful citizens doing awful things, police officers as infallible heroes who are beyond reproach, murder and mayhem as common occurrences, lies and deception as plot drivers. All of this is what we consume all day, every day. Now consider the presidential debate from last week, and think about why it looked so different than it did in 2011. You can draw a genealogical line from then to now. There are many similarities and a few monsters that were still young in 2011, now on full display. One of the things I hope you take away from this class is that our blame is often misplaced when we live in a capitalistic society with free speech. There are tons of films, songs, books, and podcasts produced that never gain traction. They never get big. The ones that do are those that nail the recipe. They give us what we want as consumers. Then they get shared, they get downloaded, they get purchased. They get that attention because they appeal to the consumer first and foremost. If you want someone to pick your product out of a million different choices, you better give them what they're looking for. We can't keep blaming Fox News or CNN for skewed news when they're just appealing to their audience. If they both changed their format tomorrow, they would cease to exist because viewers would go elsewhere.